The stars stretched endlessly before Daniel as his small ship moved through the quiet space. The engines hummed softly, and the light of the twin suns grew distant behind him. His face was calm, but inside his mind, thoughts turned like silent waves. He knew this journey was not just a mission of peace anymore. The pieces of the puzzle were beginning to fit together. The Crystal clans were not acting alone. Someone was helping them, someone inside Nerith. As the ship neared the border, Daniel activated the translator beacon. The soft blue light filled the cabin, and soon a signal appeared on his screen. It was from Saren, the envoy leader of the Crystal clans. Her calm voice echoed through the ship. "Human of Nerith, I did not expect you to return so soon." Daniel pressed the communicator. "I come to speak, not to fight. You said your people seek peace. I believe that is still possible." There was a pause before Saren replied. "You are brave to come alone. Tell me, human, why do you believe we still want peace?" Daniel looked at the screen. "Because I have seen the look in your eyes. You do not wish for destruction. You wish for respect, but you are being pushed by someone who wants more than that." Saren's glowing eyes flickered slightly. "You speak boldly for one who does not understand our world." "Perhaps," Daniel said calmly. "But I have seen enough worlds to know when someone is being used. The movement of your fleet, the sudden demand for the mines, the timing of your visit, these things are not random." There was silence. Saren looked thoughtful. "Who do you believe is behind this?" Daniel leaned back in his seat. "Someone close to the Queen. Someone who wants Nerith and your people to destroy each other." For the first time, Saren's voice softened. "If you are right, then you have stepped into danger greater than you know." "I have been in danger before," Daniel said simply. "But truth is worth it." Saren hesitated, then said, "Meet me on the moon of Terrell near the Crystal Belt. We will speak in person. Come alone." Daniel agreed, then changed his course toward the glowing moon. As the ship approached the surface, he saw the beauty of Terrell. The ground sparkled like glass, and the thin air shimmered with silver dust. He landed near a wide valley where crystal trees grew in quiet patterns, glowing softly under the starlight. Saren was already there, standing beside a crystal formation that shone like a beacon. Her tall form reflected the moonlight. "You came," she said as he stepped out of the ship. "I gave my word," Daniel replied. She studied him carefully. "You are not like the others of your world. You carry the calm of a leader." Daniel smiled lightly. "On my world, we learned that true strength is in calmness." Saren looked into the distance. "You were right. There is someone among your own who feeds false information to both sides. We received messages from inside your palace, messages that guided our moves." Daniel nodded slowly. "Do you know who sent them?" She shook her head. "No, but the voice was familiar. It was someone with authority." Daniel thought for a moment. "Lord Terran," Saren turned sharply. "The council leader?" "Yes," Daniel said softly. "He has been pushing for war since the beginning. He will gain power if peace fails. While the Queen worries about defense, he will rise as a savior in the eyes of your people." Saren's glowing eyes dimmed slightly. "That explains much. We thought your side was preparing to betray us, but perhaps he planned it for both." Daniel looked at her steadily. "If you help me reveal the truth, we can stop the war before it begins." Saren nodded slowly. "I will gather proof, but you must be careful. If Terran learns what you know, he will act fast." Daniel bowed slightly. "Then I will act faster." They parted with quiet understanding. As Daniel prepared to leave, he looked once more at the glowing landscape of Terrell. It reminded him of Earth's deserts under the moonlight, silent, beautiful, and full of secrets. He thought of Alira waiting for him in the palace, trusting him completely. He knew he could not fail her. When he returned to Nerith, the palace was in chaos. The Queen was in the council chamber, surrounded by shouting voices. Lord Terran stood in the center, his tone sharp and commanding. "The Crystal clans are preparing to strike. We have no choice but to attack first." The Queen looked troubled. "We still have no proof of their intent." Terran slammed his hand on the table. "And if we wait, it will be too late. Your Majesty, you risk the safety of our people." Daniel entered the hall quietly, and the room fell silent. Alira's eyes brightened when she saw him. "Daniel, you have returned." He bowed respectfully. "Yes, Your Majesty. And I bring the truth." Terran turned, his eyes narrowing. "The human returns with words again. Do you bring stories or evidence?" Daniel met his gaze calmly. "Evidence." He placed a small crystal disc on the table. The room filled with a holographic image of Saren, recorded from his meeting on Terrell. Her voice filled the hall. To the Queen of Nerith I speak the truth. There are messages from within your palace sent to our leaders. Messages that guided us to prepare for battle. We now know these came from one among your own council. The image faded and silence followed. The Queen's face turned pale. Who sent them? Daniel looked at Terran. You did. Terran's expression changed for a moment, then he laughed softly. You accuse me, a noble of Nerith, based on the word of an alien? This is madness. Daniel's calm voice did not waver. I also recovered the message code from your personal transmitter. It matches the signal sent to the Crystal clans. Gasps filled the hall. The Queen looked shocked. Is this true? Terran stepped back slightly, his face tense. You cannot prove. Daniel pressed a control on his wristband and another projection appeared. This time it was a record of the encoded signal, clearly bearing Terran's signature mark. The Queen's eyes hardened. Enough. Guards, take him. As the guards moved forward, Terran's calm broke. You are making a mistake. Without me, your kingdom will fall. The Queen's voice was firm. Without truth, there is no kingdom. Terran was taken away, his voice fading into the corridor. The hall was silent again. The Queen looked at Daniel with deep gratitude. You have saved us from war, human. I owe you more than I can say. Daniel bowed slightly. Peace is its own reward. Alira stepped closer, her eyes shining with pride. You did what no one else could. You saw what we all missed. Daniel smiled softly. Sometimes an outsider can see what those inside cannot. That evening, the palace glowed with calm light again. The news of Terran's betrayal spread quietly among the people. Many were shocked, but most were thankful that the truth had been revealed before it was too late. Alira walked with Daniel through the quiet gardens, the soft sound of crystal leaves filling the air. You never told me how you learned to find truth so easily, she said. Daniel looked thoughtful. On Earth, we had a saying, the eyes see only what the heart allows. If your heart seeks peace, you see clearly. She smiled. Then you have a rare heart, Daniel. He looked at her with gentle warmth. So do you, Alira. The twin suns began to set, painting the sky in shades of gold and blue. For a moment, it felt as if peace had truly returned. But deep inside, Daniel knew something still lingered. The Crystal clans had not withdrawn their fleets yet. Even with Terran gone, someone else might still try to ignite the flames of conflict. He stood silently, looking at the horizon. It is not over yet, he said quietly to himself. Alira looked at him with curiosity. What did you say? He turned to her with a calm smile. I said the stars are beautiful tonight. But his eyes held a quiet readiness, as if he was waiting for something he could not yet name. And somewhere far beyond the horizon, in the cold space between the stars, the crystal fleets began to move again. The twin suns of planet Nerith shone brightly over the crystal towers of the royal palace. The air shimmered with soft colors, and the ground reflected the light like glass. Inside the grand palace lived Princess Alira, daughter of the High Queen of the Azure Empire. She was known across the galaxy for her calm voice and wise heart. Her people admired her beauty and kindness, and many worlds had asked for her hand in marriage. Yet to everyone's surprise, she had chosen a human, someone from a small, distant world called Earth. The name of her husband was Daniel. He was not a prince, not a noble, and not a warrior. He had come from a quiet blue planet, brought by a peace exchange between Earth and Nerith. To Alira, Daniel seemed gentle and humble. He spoke softly, smiled often, and never showed pride. When he first arrived, the people of Nerith had laughed at the idea of a human living among them. Their world was filled with powerful beings who could control light and move objects with their minds. Humans, by comparison, seemed weak. Yet there was something unusual about Daniel that no one could quite understand. He was polite and kind, but sometimes his eyes carried a calm strength, as if he knew things others did not. He never boasted about his home world, never argued when others mocked him, and never showed anger. To everyone in the court, he was just a harmless man from a simple planet. Princess Alira had married him out of curiosity more than love. She wanted to learn about Earth and its people. She had read their history, stories of courage, art, and discovery. She wanted to see if the tales were true. Over time, she began to like Daniel's quiet nature. He would help the palace staff with small tasks, talk kindly to the workers, and spend hours learning about her world. He studied the alien symbols, the history of her people, and even their ancient songs. Slowly, he became part of palace life. But not everyone was pleased with this union. The royal council, made up of proud nobles, whispered that the princess had made a mistake. They believed a human could never understand their customs or protect their royal bloodline. One of them, Lord Terran, often tried to humiliate Daniel during public gatherings. He would ask him questions about technology or battle strategy that Daniel could not answer, just to make him look foolish. But Daniel never reacted. He would only smile and say, "There is always something new to learn." One bright morning, the royal council gathered in the Hall of Echoes. It was a vast chamber with tall windows that showed the endless skies. Princess Alira and Daniel sat side by side on the marble seats. The queen had called the council to discuss a serious problem. Reports said that a nearby planet, ruled by the Crystal clans, was planning to break their peace treaty. They had begun gathering ships near the border, and the queen feared an attack. The council began to argue. Some demanded immediate war, while others wanted to send spies. Daniel listened quietly, his hands folded on his lap. When the queen asked for ideas, Lord Terran stood and spoke loudly. "We cannot waste time waiting. We must send our fleets now. A quick strike will remind them of our strength." Princess Alira frowned. She did not want to start a war. "We should try to speak with them first," she said softly. "There might be a misunderstanding." Terran smirked. "Your Highness, mercy is a fine virtue, but not when dealing with enemies. And your human husband cannot advise us on this. His kind has no place in matters of war." Daniel remained calm. He looked at Terran and replied, "Peace is not weakness. Sometimes those who rush into battle lose more than they expect." The hall grew quiet. The queen looked at Daniel with mild interest. "You speak wisely, human," she said. "But tell me, what would your people do in such a time?" Daniel took a moment before answering. "On Earth, we have learned that real strength comes from unity and understanding. We build peace not by fear but by trust. If we can find the reason behind their anger, we can solve the problem without losing lives." His words made some of the council members exchange doubtful looks, yet the queen nodded slowly. "We shall send envoys first," she decided. "If that fails, we will prepare for defense." After the meeting ended, Alira walked beside Daniel through the shining corridors. "You handled that well," she said with a small smile. "Terran was trying to embarrass you," Daniel smiled back. "Pride often blinds people. It's better to stay calm and let truth speak for itself." She looked at him curiously. "You always seem so calm. Even when others insult you. Have you never been angry?" He looked out the tall windows, watching the twin suns. "Anger clouds judgment. On my world, we were taught to fight only when there is no other choice." She nodded, still studying him. "You speak like someone who has seen battle," she said quietly. Daniel's smile faded a little, but he said nothing. He only replied, "Every world has its lessons." That night, the palace was quiet. Stars glowed softly above the crystal towers. Alira could not sleep. She kept thinking about Daniel's calm face and his words. Something about him felt deeper than he showed. He seemed too wise, too patient, as if he had lived many lives. She wondered if there was more to him than met the eye. The next morning, she found him in the palace garden. He was helping the gardeners carry water and tend to glowing plants that sang softly in the sunlight. The workers liked him because he treated them as equals. He listened to their stories, laughed with them, and never acted like a prince. When Alira approached, the gardeners bowed and left them alone. "You wake early," she said. "I like mornings," he replied. "They remind me of home." They sat on a bench beside the glowing pond. The air smelled sweet with blue flowers. Alira looked at him carefully. "Do you miss Earth?" He smiled faintly. "Sometimes, but I have learned to make a home wherever I am." She hesitated, then asked, "Daniel, why did you agree to marry me? You could have refused." He looked at her gently. "Your message reached Earth as a request for peace and understanding between two worlds. I thought if one human could build that bridge, it was worth trying." Alira looked away, her heart touched. She realized that his reasons were not selfish or ambitious. He truly wanted peace. For the first time, she felt a soft warmth toward him that went beyond curiosity. As the suns began to set, a strange sound echoed from the far sky. A ship approached the palace, flashing the symbol of the Crystal clans. The guards rushed to their positions, ready for orders. Alira and Daniel looked up. The ship landed slowly, its engines humming. The air filled with tension as armored figures stepped out. Princess Alira straightened her crown and said calmly, "It seems the envoys have arrived sooner than expected." Daniel watched quietly, his eyes steady and thoughtful. Something in his expression changed for a moment. A brief, unreadable look that passed like a shadow. No one noticed it. Not yet. But in that moment, the peaceful human who everyone thought was gentle and harmless began to look like something more. Someone with a hidden strength waiting to awaken. The landing field outside the royal palace shimmered under the light of the twin suns. The silver ship that had arrived was unlike the vessels of Nerith. Its body was made of crystal and metal fused together, and light moved inside its surface like liquid fire. When the gates opened, 4 tall figures stepped out. Their skin glowed faintly like glass, and their eyes sparkled with blue light. These were the envoys of the Crystal Clans. Princess Alira stood beside her mother, Queen Nerissa, at the edge of the platform. Behind them stood Lord Taryn and the royal guards. Daniel remained a few steps back, dressed in a plain robe, watching quietly as the visitors approached. The leader of the envoys, a tall woman named Saren, bowed politely. "We come in peace," she said, her voice clear but cold. "Our leader sends his greetings to the Queen of Nerith. We have come to discuss the border dispute." The Queen nodded, her expression calm but firm. "You are welcome, Saren of the Crystal Clans. Speak freely, for we wish to keep peace between our worlds." As they entered the grand hall, the envoy's eyes wandered across the shining walls and floating lights. Everything in Nerith was bright and alive, made from living crystal that pulsed gently like a heartbeat. The envoys seemed impressed, but they carried a tension that even Alira could feel. Something about their visit felt too sudden, too heavy with hidden meaning. During the meeting, Saren explained that their people believed the mining stations on the border were placed on their side of space. The Queen tried to reason with her, offering to share resources and open communication between scientists. But Saren kept returning to one point: they wanted full control of the mines. Lord Taryn grew impatient. "Those mines belong to Nerith by ancient law," he said sharply. "We will not hand them over." Saren's glowing eyes narrowed. "Then perhaps your definition of peace is different from ours." Alira saw the tension rising. She stood and spoke softly. "Let us not turn this into conflict. There must be a solution that honors both sides. Perhaps we can invite your leader to discuss this directly." Saren looked at Alira for a long moment. "Your words are wise, Princess, but I wonder if all your people share your patience." Her gaze shifted briefly to Daniel, who stood silently near the side. "And this must be the human husband we have heard of. The one who came from the blue world." The entire hall went quiet. Even Taryn's proud smile faded slightly. Saren walked closer, studying Daniel with a curious expression. "They say humans are fragile, yet they have survived on a world full of storms. Tell me, human, what do you think about this conflict?" Daniel's eyes met hers calmly. "I think every war begins when people stop listening to each other," he said. "If both sides listen honestly, no one has to lose." A faint smile touched Saren's lips. Simple words, yet powerful. "You may be wiser than you appear." Then she turned to the Queen. "We will return in 2 days. Our leader expects your answer by then." When the envoys left, the hall filled with murmurs. The Queen dismissed the council and turned to her daughter. "Their demand is not fair," she said quietly. "But we must find a way to keep peace. I do not trust their sudden visit." Alira nodded. "They seem to know more than they said. Perhaps someone has been sending them information." Lord Taryn stepped forward. "It is clear they are preparing for war. We must not show weakness." The Queen sighed. "Strength does not always mean battle, Lord Taryn. We must be careful." Daniel said nothing, but his mind was full of quiet thoughts. The way Saren looked at him had not been simple curiosity. It was as if she recognized something about him, something he had kept hidden. That night, the palace lights dimmed and the crystal towers glowed faintly blue. Alira sat by her window, unable to rest. She kept thinking about Saren's words and Daniel's calm face. She turned to see him standing on the balcony looking at the stars. "You looked thoughtful during the meeting," she said gently. Daniel turned to her, his expression peaceful. Your people are proud, and so are theirs. Pride often leads to trouble. I hope they choose peace. She stepped closer. You spoke well today. Even the envoys listened to you. They seemed curious about you. Daniel nodded. Curiosity is not always safe, Alira. Sometimes it hides something deeper. She frowned slightly. You speak like someone who knows danger. He looked out at the stars again. Every world has its storms. Alira wanted to ask more, but his calm voice and faraway eyes stopped her. She felt there were things about him that he could not yet tell. Still, she trusted him more than anyone else. The next morning, a messenger from the border arrived, his small ship gliding into the palace courtyard. He brought troubling news. The Crystal clans have moved their fleets closer to the border, he said. They claim it is only a defensive measure, but the number of ships is growing. The Queen called another meeting. The council argued loudly again. Lord Terran urged immediate action. If we wait, they will strike first, he warned. We must show them strength. Alira looked at her mother. If we strike now, peace will be lost forever. The Queen hesitated. I need more information before making a decision. We must send someone to the border quietly to learn the truth. Terran's eyes gleamed. Then send me, Your Majesty. I will bring back answers. Before the Queen could reply, Daniel spoke softly. Let me go. Everyone turned to him in surprise. Even Alira looked shocked. Daniel, it is dangerous, she said quickly. You are not trained for such missions. Daniel smiled calmly. Sometimes an outsider can see what others miss. I can move unnoticed. No one will expect a human to be sent on such a task. Terran laughed lightly. You think you can travel into hostile space alone, human? That is foolish. Daniel looked at him steadily. Sometimes what looks foolish is only courage waiting to be tested. The Queen studied him carefully. There was something in his eyes that made her pause. She saw quiet confidence, not arrogance. After a moment, she nodded. Very well. You will go with 2 escorts. Learn what you can and return safely. Alira was not pleased with the decision, but she did not argue. Later, when they were alone, she said, You do not have to prove yourself to anyone, Daniel. He smiled gently. I'm not trying to prove anything, I only wish to help your people see the truth. She looked at him with concern. Then promise me you will come back. I will, he said softly. The next morning, Daniel left the palace aboard a small silver ship with 2 guards. As the vessel rose into the blue sky, Alira watched from her balcony, her heart filled with worry. She did not know why she felt so uneasy. Something about the whole situation felt wrong, as if shadows were moving behind every word and action. Far away from the palace, the stars shone cold and distant. Daniel sat quietly in the ship, his eyes focused on the glowing controls. The guards spoke little. One of them asked curiously, Human, have you ever traveled beyond your world before? Daniel smiled faintly. Yes, a few times. The stars always look the same no matter where you are. The guard nodded, not realizing how deep the human's words were. As the ship moved through the silent darkness, Daniel's calm face slowly changed. His eyes grew serious, and his hands moved across the controls with practiced precision. His posture was no longer that of a gentleman learning about a new world. It was the calm readiness of someone who had done this many times before. Somewhere deep in the black space ahead, a faint signal blinked. Daniel's eyes caught it immediately. He leaned closer and whispered quietly to himself, So they are already waiting. He glanced once toward the stars, his expression steady but sharp. The man everyone thought was innocent and harmless was beginning to reveal a different side, one that even the princess had never seen. The small silver ship moved quietly through the cold space between the worlds. Stars shimmered like dust across the darkness, and the engines hummed softly. Daniel sat near the front window, his eyes focused on the glowing signals ahead. The 2 guards who traveled with him spoke little. They were loyal soldiers of Nereth, trained to protect the royal family, but they still looked at Daniel with doubt. To them, he was just a gentle human with kind words and no power. The taller guard, named Oren, watched him for a moment and finally asked, "Why did you offer to come, human?" "You could have stayed safe in the palace." Daniel smiled faintly. "Sometimes peace can only be saved by those who are willing to walk into uncertainty." Oren shook his head slightly. "You speak like a dreamer. The Crystal clans are not known for mercy." Daniel looked at him calmly. "Then perhaps they need to meet someone who still believes in it." The journey continued for several hours until the sensors picked up something unusual. A cluster of signals appeared near the edge of the Nareth border. Daniel leaned closer and adjusted the controls. "There," he said quietly. "That is their fleet." The guards looked at the screen and saw a line of shining shapes hidden in the shadow of a nearby moon. The ships were large, made of living crystal that glowed faintly blue. They were not in attack formation, but they were too close to be peaceful. Oren frowned. "They are waiting for something." Daniel nodded slowly. "Yes, they are waiting for an order." He pressed a few buttons and the ship's sensors began recording the movement of the fleet. "We have what we need," he said. "Let's return before they notice." But just as he spoke, an alarm flashed across the control panel. A bright light appeared behind them. Another ship had uncloaked, directly in their path. Oren's hands went to the controls. "They have found us." Daniel's calm voice came instantly. "Stay steady. Don't make sudden moves." The crystal ship ahead sent a communication signal. A voice came through, cold and sharp. "Unknown vessel, you are trespassing in restricted space. Identify yourself." Daniel pressed the communicator. "This is a diplomatic ship from Nareth on a peaceful mission. We come with no weapons." There was silence for a moment, then the voice replied, "Peaceful or not, you are not welcome here. Turn back now." The guards looked nervous. Oren whispered, "We must return." But Daniel kept his eyes on the screen. Something about the voice sounded familiar, calm yet heavy with authority. "That voice," he murmured quietly. "It's her." He meant Saren, the envoy who had visited the palace. It seemed she had not gone home after all. She had been waiting here, guarding the border. Daniel thought for a moment and then said, "Prepare the return course. We cannot risk being followed." As they turned the ship, the crystal vessel began to move after them. Light trails shimmered behind it like ribbons. Oren looked tense. "They are following us." Daniel tapped the controls again, his movements quick but steady. Not for long. He activated a sequence the guards had never seen before. The engines glowed brighter and the ship suddenly accelerated. The stars outside stretched into thin lines as they moved through a narrow stream of light. Oren stared in disbelief. "This is not standard Nareth technology. How did you—" Daniel simply said, "I made some adjustments." The ship vanished into the quiet void, leaving the crystal vessel far behind. When the danger was gone, Oren turned to Daniel with confusion. "You are not an ordinary human, are you?" Daniel looked at him with a gentle smile. "Ordinary is only a word. What matters is what you choose to do." When they returned to Nareth, the Queen and the Council gathered again in the Hall of Echoes. The data Daniel brought showed clear proof that the Crystal clans had gathered a fleet near the border. The Council grew restless. Lord Terran stood and said, "We must prepare our defense at once." The Queen nodded but looked at Daniel. "Tell us, human, what did you see?" Daniel stood calmly before them. "They are waiting, not attacking. It seems they want you to strike first. If you do, they will claim you started the war." Alira listened carefully. "So they are setting a trap." "Yes," Daniel said softly. "They want to appear as victims while taking what they desire." Lord Terran frowned. "And what do you suggest we do?" "Sit and watch until they move." Daniel looked at him without anger. "I suggest patience. If we gather proof of their true plans and send it to the Galactic Council, they will lose support. Sometimes the strongest move is not to strike, but to reveal truth." The Queen thought deeply. "You speak wisely once again. We will follow this path for now." After the meeting, Alira found Daniel in the garden. The air smelled sweet from glowing flowers and the soft sound of water filled the air. She walked beside him quietly for a moment before speaking. "You were calm even when you were near danger. I could feel it through the bond we share. How do you stay so peaceful?" Daniel looked at her kindly. "Peace is something you practice every day. If you let fear guide you, you lose clarity." She smiled a little. "You speak like a teacher, not a traveler." He looked at the sky and said, "On Earth I was both once." Alira tilted her head. "What do you mean?" He hesitated for a moment, then said, "Before I came here, I was part of a group that worked to protect peace between colonies. We studied conflicts, stopped them before they turned into war. But sometimes we had to fight to protect the innocent. Alira's eyes widened slightly. So you have seen war? Daniel nodded slowly. Yes, and that is why I fear it. It changes people. She looked at him with quiet respect. Then maybe that is why you were chosen to come here. That night, Alira could not sleep. Her thoughts stayed with Daniel's words. She began to realize that his calmness was not weakness. It was strength earned through experience. The more she learned about him, the more she admired him. The next morning, new trouble arrived. A message came from the Crystal clans. It was short and clear. You have 2 days to leave the border. If not, we will take it by force. The council was called again. Terran spoke first, his voice loud with anger. Enough talk. We must prepare our ships. If they want war, let us show them who we are. Alira stood and said, if we rush into battle, we will fall into their plan. We must find another way. Daniel stepped forward. Let me try to speak with them once more. They will not expect it. Perhaps I can delay their move long enough to reveal the truth. The queen looked at him with concern. It is risky. Daniel bowed slightly. Peace is always risky, Your Majesty, but worth the effort. After a moment of silence, the queen agreed. You may go. Take a small ship and a translator beacon. Alira followed him outside after the meeting. You always offer to go when danger rises, she said softly. Why? He smiled. Because someone must. She looked at him for a long moment. Be careful, Daniel. I do not know why, but I feel something strange in the air, as if a storm is coming. Daniel looked up at the sky. The twin suns were half covered by drifting clouds of crystal dust. Then let us hope it passes quickly. When he boarded the small ship again, his expression was calm, but his eyes were sharp with quiet purpose. Deep inside, he knew the truth about the Crystal Clan's plan ran deeper than anyone guessed. And somewhere within their fleet, a secret waited. One that could change not just Nereth, but the balance of power in the galaxy itself. As the ship rose into the glowing sky, Alira watched from her balcony once again. This time her heart felt heavier. She whispered a silent prayer, not knowing that when Daniel returned, he would no longer be the same man she thought she knew. The morning sun of Nereth rose slowly, painting the crystal towers in soft gold and blue. Princess Alira stood at her balcony, looking out at the palace gardens. The air smelled of glowing flowers, and the soft hum of energy from the towers filled the quiet space. Daniel had been away checking the borders and reporting the movements of the Crystal clans. Today, he was scheduled to return. Alira's heart was full of curiosity and a quiet hope. She had watched him act with wisdom, courage, and calmness. He had solved problems that no one else could, and he had uncovered hidden plots that could have started a war. Yet she could not forget the look in his eyes when he faced danger, calm, steady, and quietly strong. She realized that the man she had called gentle and innocent was far more capable than she had ever imagined. The ship carrying Daniel appeared in the sky. Its engines glowed softly, leaving a trail of light as it descended toward the landing field. Alira hurried down the palace steps, her long robes flowing behind her. When the ship landed, Daniel stepped out. He looked the same at first, calm, polite, and composed, but Alira noticed a subtle difference. There was a quiet confidence in his posture, a sense of readiness that had not been there before. Welcome back, Alira said, smiling. Daniel bowed slightly. Thank you, Princess. It is good to return home. The Queen approached, her expression a mixture of relief and pride. You have done more than we could have hoped, Daniel. The Council and I are grateful. Daniel nodded. The truth is always more powerful than force. The Crystal clans will reconsider their actions once they know the truth about Terran. Alira took his hand gently. You acted carefully, wisely, and bravely. I have never seen anyone like you. He smiled softly. I only did what needed to be done. Your world deserves peace, and I would do the same for any place that seeks it. Later, Daniel and Alira walked through the gardens together. The soft crystal leaves shimmered in the sunlight. Daniel spoke quietly, his gaze fixed on the horizon. There is one more thing. Terran was only part of the problem. The Crystal clans have leaders who sometimes test others with indirect challenges. They will watch us for a while, even after the truth is known. Alira frowned. So there may still be danger? Daniel shook his head gently. No immediate danger, but we must remain aware. Trust is stronger than fear, and calmness is stronger than rashness. If we act wisely, we can prevent any conflict before it begins. Alira looked at him with admiration. You speak like someone who has seen much of the universe. How can you remain so steady? Daniel smiled faintly. Experience teaches patience. The mind must stay calm to see clearly, and the heart must stay open to act kindly. Their walk brought them to a small pond where water glowed softly and reflected the sunlight. Alira paused and asked, Daniel, did you ever think your journey would bring you here to a world so different from your own? He gazed at the pond for a moment. No, but I always hoped to find a place where my actions could help others. And I found that place here with you and your people. Alira felt a warmth spread through her chest. She realized that she had not only discovered the truth about Daniel's strength, but also about his character. His calmness and wisdom were not signs of weakness. They were proof of courage, patience, and understanding. He had faced challenges in ways she could not have imagined, and he had protected her world without arrogance or violence. Later that evening, the palace held a council to discuss the next steps with the Crystal clans. Saren herself arrived as a representative, her calm presence filling the room. She nodded to Daniel as he entered. You have done well, she said softly. Daniel bowed slightly. We all act for peace. The council discussed plans to strengthen communication between Nerith and the Crystal clans. The humans and aliens worked together, sharing information, technology, and ideas. Daniel suggested methods of cooperation that respected both cultures. The leaders listened carefully, impressed by his insight. Alira watched him, amazed at how naturally he guided everyone toward understanding. She thought about the beginning, when she had believed him to be gentle and perhaps inexperienced. Now she understood. His humanity was not weakness, it was his strength. It allowed him to think clearly, act wisely, and see what others could not. After the council meeting, Alira and Daniel returned to the palace gardens. The twin suns were setting and the sky shimmered with gold and violet light. Alira took a deep breath and said, I have thought about something for a long time. Daniel looked at her with gentle curiosity. What is it? I thought you were innocent, she said softly. I thought your calm nature meant you could not act in ways that were strong or decisive. But I see now that I was wrong. Daniel smiled faintly. Innocence and strength can exist together. What matters is knowing when to act and when to wait. Even the gentlest heart can carry great power. Alira reached for his hand. You have shown me that. You have shown me what true courage looks like. And I am proud to call you my husband. Daniel squeezed her hand gently. And I am proud to stand by your side. Together we can help this world grow stronger and keep peace for everyone. The next day, news arrived that the Crystal clans had sent a message to the Galactic Council, confirming the truth about Terran and the peaceful intentions of Nerith. The council praised the actions of both Princess Alira and Daniel. Nerith's name spread across the galaxy as a world of wisdom, patience, and justice. Alira walked through the palace with Daniel by her side. The people greeted him warmly, no longer questioning his place in their world. He spoke kindly to the workers, laughed softly with children, and helped in small ways, as he always did. But now everyone could see the quiet strength behind his gentle demeanor. At sunset, the princess and Daniel stood at the top of the tallest tower. They looked out at the horizon where the twin suns met the sky. Alira turned to him, her eyes shining. I understand now. You are more than I could have imagined. You are not just human. You are someone who can change worlds. Daniel smiled, the faint glow of the setting suns reflecting in his eyes. I am just one person, he said. But even one person can make a difference when they act with truth, calmness, and heart. Alira rested her head on his shoulder. And I will always stand with you. The twin suns disappeared below the horizon, and the crystal towers glowed softly in the twilight. The palace was quiet, full of light and hope. Across Nerith, the people felt the change, a sense of safety, of wisdom, and of trust in the future. Daniel and Alira stood together in silence, knowing that the events of the past days had changed everything. They had seen danger, deception, and uncertainty, yet their hearts remained steady. The human who had seemed gentle and innocent had shown the true meaning of strength. It was not in weapons or battles. It was in calmness, understanding, and courage. As night fell over the crystal towers, the stars above seemed to shine brighter than ever. And somewhere deep in the galaxy, the fleets of the Crystal clans turned away from war, guided by the wisdom of one human who had changed the course of events without raising his hand in anger. Princess Alira smiled up at Daniel. "I once thought you were innocent," she said softly. "Now I know that your strength is even greater than I imagined, and I am proud to call you mine." Daniel looked at her, his eyes calm and steady. "And I am proud to stand with you. Together we have built more than peace. We have built trust, understanding, and hope." They stood together on the tower, watching the stars and feeling the quiet power of a world where truth, courage, and calmness were stronger than any sword. The twin suns had set, but their light remained in the hearts of the people. And the human who had once seemed gentle had proven that true strength is measured not by fear or force, but by wisdom, patience, and a steadfast heart.